builder who described himself as a psychopath with a conscience has been found guilty of murdering two escorts 6 months apart. Mark Brown killed Leah Ware and Alexandra Morgan at a remote farm in East Sussex. He met both women through a sex work website, the jury at Hove Crown Court was told. Brown put 34-year-old Ms. Morgan headfirst into a homemade incinerator before dumping her remains. She had last been seen at a petrol station in Cranbrook in Kent on November the 14th, 2021. The body of the 33-year-old Ms. Ware has never been found, but the prosecution believe he used a similar method to dispose of her remains, and he is also believed to have killed a Pomeranian dog. Today, a jury of 10 men and 2 women took 10.5 hours to convict Brown of both murder charges. So Brown had been living a double life, police said, and he was with a partner for more than 14 years and had a child of his own as well as 2 stepsons from his partner's previous relationship. It's believed he was a grafter. He worked in the ground industry, but he also had other jobs, including as a security guard, a pilot vehicle driver for a static caravan company, and buying and reselling cars. The 41-year-old had no criminal record and showed no signs of being violent. But he secretly used Adults Work, a website where sex workers advertise their services, and he spent inheritance money to fund his lifestyle, meeting up to 10 escorts. Brown met both victims through the same website. Detective Superintendent Andy Walmsley of Sussex Police said there was no evidence Brown harmed anyone in the past. He had no history of sexual violence. We contacted all individuals, less than 10 people he had met through the adult website. They all said Brown did not give any indication he was violent in any way. Brown only used one phone and was quite brazen in how he went about his business. His partner wasn't looking through his phone. He had lots of jobs which kept him very busy, and in 2018 he received some inheritance money which would fund his lifestyle of paying for sex. Senior prosecutor at the Crown Prosecution Service, Libby Clark, said he had 2 sides to him. The fact he was a family man at home, but he was seeing Leah Ware shows he was living a double life. He can endear himself to people, so with no criminal history and no indication of violence or aggression, makes him more puzzling as a person. So Brown first met Ms. Ware in March 2018 when he hired her as an escort. Their meeting evolved into a relationship, and by the end of the year Brown had paid for Ms. Ware to live in a flat in Hastings for 6 months, unbeknown to Brown's partner. Once the flat's lease expired in early 2019, Ms. Ware moved to a static caravan at Littlebridge Farm, which Brown hired for storage and to work on cars. But when the landlord found out Ms. Ware was living there, he told us to leave because there was no planning permission for anyone else to live on the site. Brown then moved Ms. Ware into a partially converted shipping container hidden inside his workshop, where she lived until her death. Brown disposed of the static caravan by setting fire to it. Ms. Ware was an animal lover and she was devoted to her pets, and at the time of her death she had a horse and 2 dogs. Pomeranian dog bones were found on the farm along with a length of chain and a dumbbell weight, and police say Brown killed the Pomeranian dog either shortly before or after Ms. Ware. Ms. Ware had several mental health illnesses and was taking prescription medication. She had 3 kids but did not have custody of them. She lived a transient lifestyle. The last time she contacted her family directly was to wish one of her children happy birthday back in March 2021. Alexandra Morgan, known to Alex to friends and family, was an unemployed single mother of 2 sons who was living in Kent at the time of her death. Shortly after Ms. Ware's murder, Brown reactivated his Adult Work account and made contact with Ms. Morgan, who secretly worked as an escort. Ahead of their final meeting on November the 14th, 2021, Brown hired Ms. Morgan for sex in the converted shipping container on Littlebridge Farm. He had offered her a job which he claimed could be worth £100,000. Ms. Morgan agreed to take on the job, but left a note and clues to Brown's identity and location at her home in case it did not work out as planned. The scrawlings gave outline details of a planned trip to Sussex to meet with the 41-year-old. So Alex was working as an escort, and she and Brown met up on several occasions for sex, either at her home or in a shipping container at the farm. One day out of the blue, Brown told her he could get her an easy £100,000 job if she helped him at the hotel where he did night security. Telling her to keep quiet about the offer, he said it would take just 3 to 5 days and all she would need to do was turn up at the hotel, do some shopping, bag up cash and hang around, and the money would be hers. Desperate for money to open up her own dog grooming business, Alex fell for the lure. Telling her parents she was going on a spa treatment in York with some friends, she asked them to look after her sons, assuring them she would return. On Remembrance Sunday 2021, which turned out to be November the 14th, she dressed up for the job and headed to the farm in a Mini Cooper. She stopped for £10 of fuel, a coffee and a snack at the Shell petrol station at around 7 o'clock in the morning. The station manager, who was a friend of hers, told police she was obviously going somewhere special. She said she was more done up than I've ever seen her before, and she came in very early in the morning, which was unlike her. It was the last time she was ever seen. Her family reported her missing after she failed to return to pick up her boys, and police launched a search. It later became clear Alex had become very suspicious of Brown and his £100,000 offer, and had left a series of clues for police. On a table downstairs, a note read, "Let's go rollerblading." And in her son's rollerblading box, police found a note detailing the meeting with Brown on the 14th, a large sum of cash, a mobile phone and PIN, and an address where she may be found. As they knew where she had driven, police were able to track her car on CCTV as it made its way to Hastings. CCTV at a scrap metal merchant's close to the farm showed the Mini entering the farm at around 8 o'clock in the morning, followed by Brown driving his Jaguar. She never left the farm alive. And as I said, 2 weeks later, fragments of her bone and teeth were found in an oil drum on a building site in Sevenoaks in Kent, where Brown had been working. Her jewellery, a handbag, and her hair straighteners were also found. Brown told the jury he panicked and burnt her body after Alex suffered a catastrophic head injury when she tripped over at the farm. But today, those claims turned out to be baseless lies when the jury found him guilty of murdering both women. So the family of Leah Ware, who attended throughout the trial, gave a heartfelt tribute to the victim. In a statement, they said, "Leah was a kind, loving, generous and beautiful young woman who should have had a whole life ahead of her. She loved and cherished her children, always wanted to do the best for them. She adored her animals and was devoted to her 2 dogs. Leah did encounter challenges in her later life, but she always tried to see the good in everyone and everything. She was very trusting and cared deeply, and it was those qualities that Mark Brown exploited for his own gratification. He betrayed Leah's love and trust, and even now he won't allow her the dignity and respect of a proper burial or allow us to have the answers so we desperately deserve and need. The feeling of loss is so hard for us all to bear. There will forever be a missing piece in our lives. We are truly devastated that Leah has been ripped from our lives in such inhumane circumstances. It breaks our heart to think of what she went through in the time leading up to her murder. Leah will live on in the thoughts and memories of her family and friends and will never be forgotten. We will all make sure that Leah's children grow up knowing who their mummy was. For people that didn't know our Leah, she was fun with a fabulous sense of humour and mischief. Guys, this is a story coming in where a builder who described himself as a psychopath with a conscience has been found guilty of murdering 2 women 6 months apart. Just want to say rest in peace to the victims and my condolences go out to their families. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.